Hello, and welcome to the Creative Mojo podcast. This is my podcast all about my love of knitting and occasionally other crafty endeavors as well. My name is Johanne, and I'm obviously your host, and I'm coming to you, as I always do, from my home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And a warm welcome to any of you who are returning viewers, and also a hello and warm welcome, and nice to see you to anybody who is a new viewer. It's been a while since I podcast. I apologize for my fairly lengthy absence. I think it was the end of October when I recorded my last episode. This is episode number 55. Episode number 54 was pretty much 2 months ago. Life has just been crazy, and my normal time when it's convenient for me to podcast, it tends to be on Saturdays. Today is Saturday, December 22nd. And for the last while, I've been rehearsing a play that has kept me busy on most Saturday afternoons, and so I haven't had the opportunity to podcast. And a few times when I did have the day free, it was so filled up with other things that I was looking after that I just didn't get around to it. It just became a little bit lower down on my priorities, which is too bad because I've missed speaking with all of you and talking about what I've been working on. But I do have a few things to talk to you about today and show you, and I really wanted to get at least this podcast out before the end of the year. This will probably be my last episode until January. I don't think that I will get one out in the week between Christmas and New Year's. Is just realizing my hair is a disaster. Oh well, you get me as I am. Because again, I am working on a show that opens in early January. We have a little bit of a break now. I'm a professional stage manager. Amongst other things, I work full-time in professional theater here in Calgary, and we have the company that I currently work for, we have a festival that happens in January called the High Performance Rodeo, and it's an international festival of multidisciplinary live performance art. There's theater, predominantly theater, but theater, dance, music, all that kind of stuff. So of course we're gearing up for that, and things have been extremely busy. And I have a few days off, as I said now, but I go back to work on the 27th and hit the ground running pretty hard, gearing up for that festival, which opens on January 10th. So I'm going to try and get an episode in early January. It might be more like mid-January before I get a day to do it. We'll see how my schedule plays out, but I promise not to go 2 months without another episode again. As I said, I've really missed it. So, and I do have a lot of things that I could talk about today, but I've decided to focus a little bit more specifically on the things I've been knitting for Christmas. Otherwise, this would be an incredibly long episode with a bunch of finished objects, which are my Christmas presents, and then a whole bunch of works in progress, which are things that I've started since I last recorded in October, but many of which have been put on hold for Christmas presents anyway. So let me talk a little bit about what I've been working on. The first thing is that I am wearing a finished object that I did finish in late October, I think. This is actually the first time that I've worn it, so it took me a little while to weave in the ends and then get it blocked and stuff. And so I thought I would wear it in its maiden voyage today in honor of recording the podcast. So this is my Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry. I worked on this on and off for a number of months this year. I worked on it for a while and then kind of put it on hold and worked on some other projects and then came back to it. I'm really liking it. It's very cozy. It is, as so often happens to me with sweaters, it is larger than I probably needed to make it. I have a bad habit of always choosing the larger sizes on sweaters, and then they grow a bit when I block them, and then they're really big. Now this is meant to be oversized, so it is oversized, but it is probably more oversized than I could have intended. You can see there's lots of room in here, but it is very cozy. It is a very much a sweatshirt type of sweater. I know I will get lots of wear out of it wearing it as a sort of a sweatshirt. I knit it from some Beaver Slide Dry Goods, which is a yarn brand out of Montana, in a 100% merino. I believe there's not a superwash. It's very cozy. I love how it feels. It's meant to be worsted weight, and my gauge was a little dense. This is probably a heavy worsted weight, so it is also kind of a bit of a sturdy sweater, but it is really soft and really cozy. Beaver slides. There is a fair amount, if you use this yarn, there is a fair amount of small, veggie matter, like little bits of straw and stuff, often in the yarn that you sort of have to pick out as you go. I don't mind that at all. And I think I got a lot of it, and a bit more of it came out obviously in the blocking, and will probably come out as I wash it a couple more times. But there's a lot of lanolin in the yarn, which makes it very, very soft feeling when you wash it. It bloomed beautifully. You can see that. The color that I used, I think, was called Snowberry. What else do I want to tell you about this? As I said, it is a little bit big. You can see the sleeves they were a little bit better length until I blocked it, and they did grow a little bit, so they do tend to come. But again, that's not bad for a cozy, oversized sweater that you want to be able to throw on over things in the coldest of winter, or wear as a sort of an outdoor garment over something in the spring or fall. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I think I will get lots of wear out of it. I love the color. I love the yarn. If I knit this again, which I might consider, I would probably go down one more size. I did get it fairly tight. I had to, I think I went down a needle size. I can't remember now, and I don't have it written down in my notes, but I think I went down one needle size to get gauge. So it did knit up fairly densely, but it is good. It is cozy, comfortable, and I'm really, really pleased with it. So again, that's the Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry, and I highly recommend that pattern if you're looking at a pretty simple sweater. It is knit. This is reverse stockinette on this side, obviously the purl side out. The sleeves are not, the sleeves are just regular stockinette, but you knit the majority of the body inside out, so in the round, so you are knitting knit stitches, not purl stitches for the majority of the pattern, which is great. It has some really nice details. It has this lovely we call it Norwegian cast off, sewn cast off on the sleeves and the neck. I also on the bottom hem, which I actually didn't do. I just cast on. I just did a normal cast on. I did it a bit loosely, and it seems to have worked fine. It's got a bit of a split hem. I can't show you the bottom, but a little bit of a split hem at the bottom. But I love this detail of how that Norwegian cast off, bind off, looks like the knitting just continues up and around, and because you sew that. Very nice, and that's also around this detail here. And then a 3-needle bind off at the shoulder for that nice seam. So yes, great sweater, and this was my last finished sweater for 2018. I do have another sweater on the needles that I've been working on, or that I had been working on, which again, and I finished the body on that. It now I need to move on to the old sleeve island, but I have set it aside because I was working on Christmas presents. So most of which are done. I have, which is good because it is the 22nd of December. I do have a couple or I have one project still that I'm hoping to finish before Christmas. We'll see. I'll talk about that first maybe. This is my my one not quite fitted. These are socks for my husband. I don't worry. I always leave his till last because I don't worry if I have to gift him Christmas socks still on the needle. He totally understands, and if I don't get them finished before Christmas, we usually exchange our gifts to each other Christmas Eve. So if I don't get them finished Christmas Eve, I will gift them to him as they are, and then finish them up over the next day. I probably would finish them up over, Christmas and Boxing Day. So this is how far I am, is just the one sock. I think I definitely will get the one sock finished, and I should get at least some good headway on the second sock, if not being able to completely finish that. I'm liking how it's knitting up. Now it's a commercial yarn. I think it's an opal, but I'm not actually sure. I lost the tag a while ago, but it is a commercial German sock yarn. Good, pretty manly colors. I'm knitting it on a 2.25 millimeter needle, which is my preferred needle size. and for my husband it's 68 stitches around. I do find that he wears his hand knit socks a lot, like all winter long pretty much. I would say 80% of the time when he's wearing socks, he's wearing hand knits, which is fantastic. But I have knit him some out of sort of commercial, slightly harder wearing sock yarn, a fair number of pairs, and then I've knit a few pairs out of indie sock yarn in a softer merino nylon blend, and I do find he wears through those much more quickly than he does through this kind of yarn. Recently I had to darn holes in a couple of pairs of his socks that were knit from indie, nice sort of soft merino nylon, superwash merino nylon. So I do find this is actually better. I do tend to buy and save commercial yarn, commercial sock yarns for him for his socks because they last longer and they get a lot of wear, but it's pretty colors. I know he will like these, so I'm excuse me, I'm about halfway through the foot there. So that's my one Christmas project that is still a whip. And then I have some completed objects. I don't have as much Christmas knitting this year as I do a lot of years because several members of my family I sort of decided for various reasons not to knit for this year. Mostly just I had other ideas for other gifts for them. So I knit predominantly for my mother, although I didn't even knit as much for, usually my mother gets a sort of larger knitted gift or a couple of knitted gifts. This year she's just getting one because I can't remember whether I mentioned on this podcast or not, but she's taken up sock knitting recently. She's knit on and off a lot of her life, but she hadn't knit for a number of years. And she decided she wanted to try knitting socks because she always enjoyed the hand knit socks that I make for her. So this, I think, late summer, early fall, something like that, late summer maybe. She asked me to show her how to knit socks. I gave her a couple of little tips. She found an old pattern that she had kicking around that she sort of used as a template, and she's been knitting herself socks and she's been really enjoying it. So part of her Christmas present this year is sock yarn, which I didn't bring to show you, but I have two. I have one beautiful indie dyed skein of yarn from Ancient Arts Fibers that I think she'll really love, and then I have a commercial sock yarn. She's enjoying using the commercial sock yarn as well, and for her she finds that those are a little more hard wearing and last a little longer for her too. So, but the other gift that the knitted gift I am giving her is this lovely cute hat. This is the which hasn't been blocked yet. That's my chore for this afternoon, is to do the last of my blocking of my Christmas gifts so that I can wrap them probably Christmas Eve and get them ready to go to Christmas Day with my family. And this is the Beeswax Hats by Amy Vandelar. This was really fun to knit. This is knit out of a worsted weight. And as you can see, those fun cables and the way that the ribbing flows in there. I really love that. I don't remember the yarn. Some of the stuff I'm going to show you, I didn't have the tags for stuff that's been in my stash for a long time, and I was looking for something in. I think the original design of this that's shown with the pattern was in a lovely kind of goldy yellow color. So I was looking for something that kind of worked with that. This is a bit more orange. I don't know. That's relatively true. It's a bit more orangey in person than it is gold yellow. Kind of somewhere in between those two. But it is beautiful, and I just love the design, and I love the depth of the design. I'm going to block it fairly lightly because I don't want this sort of three-dimensionality to flatten out too much when I block it. But that was really fun to knit. It was about I would say, in terms of time I worked on, probably 3 days of working on it, evenings here and there. So that's what I'm gifting my mom this year. I also knit another hat, which I'm gifting to, I always want to say my sister-in-law, but actually technically she's my sister's sister-in-law. It's complicated. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is an identical twin, and his identical twin brother and his wife always join us for Christmas. And his wife, Sandra, is very crafty herself. She doesn't really knit, but she does a lot of other really beautiful craft stuff. And she always gifts the most lovely handmade gifts. So I think last year, I can reach over and get it here, she did these amazing quilted table placemats. Aren't those pretty? This cool sort of typewriter pattern on the back. So this is what she gifted us last year. And so it's always a pleasure to gift her knitting, because she really appreciates handmade gifts. So I made for her a hat as well. This, not pretty. This is the Sparkling Cider hat by Kristen Lair, I think, of the Woolenvine podcast and Woolenvine Yarns. And this is a pattern she put out fairly recently. So you've probably seen some other podcasters making it. And I just loved, it's with fingering weight and mohair held together. You can see over here that little halo of that mohair, which is really fun. And I really enjoyed knitting this. The pattern does have beads as well. These are little, you can tell, but these are little like Christmas trees, and there's a bead on the top of each one. I opted not to do the beads. I didn't have any beads that I thought went well with this yarn, and I really wanted to cast it on, and I didn't want to spend time figuring out to get some beads, and I didn't. So I just decided to go, and beading is not my favorite thing, to be honest. So I just decided to go without the beads. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's the softest, fluffiest. And the yarns I used were, I do have the tags and the info on this, which is good. So I used, this is the fingering weight that I used. As you can see, this is just, you can tell there. This is the palest blue. It's almost white, but it isn't actually. It is actually truly a very pale blue. It is black Trillium fibers. I've just got the tag wrapped around it because there's quite a bit left there so that it can go back in my stash. It's black Trillium fibers, her Marilyn sock, which is a 75-25, and the colorway, as you can see, there's Air. I don't know that you can get this yarn from her. I think this was a special color for a shop that she dyed for in Portland. I picked it up at the store in Portland, which I can't remember the name of anymore, and I don't even think is still there, unfortunately. But really pretty. So this pale white blue. And I held with it, as the pattern calls for, a mohair silk lace, hedgehog fibers. Let me get it good. There we go. In the colorway Glacier, which is this very pretty frosty blue. And together, they gave this hat the most beautiful sort of icy blue halo. And there are lighter and darker sort of speckles in that. So you can see some of that there. Yeah. In that, in the mohair, which showed up really, really nicely against the, against that pale whitey blue. So it's so pretty and so soft. So I'm really hoping Sandra's gonna love that and get some good wear out of that. And then I have a pair of socks for my sister, which I'm not gonna show you because they're socks I showed on the podcast and finished quite a while ago. They're Helen Stewart's Fairy Lights socks that I'm gifting my sister. And then for my stepmother, I made two things. I made her a pair of fingerless gloves. She mentioned that I gave her fingerless gloves like years ago, and she's been wearing them, and she lost them a while back, so I thought it was time she had a new pair. Again, I don't remember the yarn for this. It's a cashmere blend, I know that. Really pretty color, this variegated tonal sort of red wine reds, almost to browns in some spots. Super soft with that cashmere in there. I didn't use a pattern on this. I've made lots and lots of fingerless gloves, and I like vanilla socks. I just have sort of a pattern in my head. I think I cast on 64 stitches to start. I did on 2.5 millimeter needle. I did a little bit of decreasing. I think I did down to 60 stitches when I got to where I wanted to start the thumb gusset, I had decreased a little bit in here to get from 64 to 60. And then I just split and did a thumb gusset, as you can see there. Yeah, and so the top of the hand is 56 stitches, I believe, up here, because I used 4 stitches to start the thumb gusset. And yeah, that's it. It's very simple. They're very, very pretty. I hope she will like them. And to go with them, I did, not in the same yarn, but in a very, very similar kind of color, I did this. Now this will look a bit funny right at the moment because it hasn't been blocked yet and it is just off the needles. I bound it off this morning. This is a pattern by Johanne Locatelli. It's called Paris and Berlin. And it's a cowl, actually. It's meant to look like, when you wear it, it looks like a shawl. It's got this shawl point in the front. So it looks like a shawl when you drape it around your neck this way, like a scarf. But it has no ends to it like a shawl would, so it doesn't come off. So it's this sort of long tube that gets bigger and comes down to a point down here. The yarn I used for this, it's in fingering weight, and I used Olan. I don't have the tag kicking around. I think the color was called Blood Moon, if I remember correctly. It's a beautiful, again, beautiful sort of dark blood red, red wine red. Goes very nicely with these, even though they're 2 different yarn dyers. Matches really well with these. And it was enjoyable to knit as well. It's got this lovely kind of, let's see if we can see this well, smocking pattern down here on it, and a little bit of sort of texture up in this part. That's just a knit purl texture. Fairly quick knit. We'll see, as I said, it's a little weird and wobbly at the moment, and I'm hoping that it's going to even out a bit, look a little bit neater when I block it. It's on a 4mm needle, which is what was called for in the pattern. And I will say, I guess I'm a little bit of a loose knitter in the sense that I am not super happy with the fabric I get, especially garter stitch, which is here, when I use fingering weight on a 4mm needle. If I was to knit this again, I might go down 1 needle size at least, although it would, and maybe add a set of pattern repeats or something to keep it a little wider, but to have a little bit firmer fabric. But hopefully it's going to look real pretty when it blocks out. So it's still got its ends attached. So that's my task for this afternoon, is a little bit of blocking, some end weaving in, and then hopefully some time on those socks. So this is going to be a short episode today, guys, because that's all the knitting that I have out to show you and talk about. I do want to announce the long overdue end of October winner for our pattern socks cal that we've had running all year. There's 160 posts in there of beautiful pattern socks. It's very inspirational. If you haven't spent some time looking at other people's socks in there, you really should. There's all kinds of great ideas for patterns, for pattern sock designs, if you like doing that. And I've really enjoyed looking through periodically and looking at everybody's postings, and thank you all so much for playing along. We're almost done that year-long cal. It will wrap up at the end of December, and I am going to do a final draw from all of the postings that over the year. I think I may draw for 2. I have a couple of prizes in mind, which I will show when I give them away. I think I got a lovely order recently. It was funny. So I ordered some of the Mondim yarn from Retrosaria. You may have seen that Mondim is a sock yarn. It's from Portugal. You may have seen other people working with it. It's beautiful, beautiful, sort of sturdy, this kind of, as I'm knitting for my husband, kind of sturdy sock yarn, but really beautifully dyed. And I ordered 3 skeins, 3 balls of that, 100-gram balls. And I ordered them, gosh, back in very beginning, late October or the very beginning of November. And then we had a postal strike going on in Canada. Now, it wasn't a complete shutdown of the postal system. It was a kind of work to roll type of strike. So the post was very slow. They sort of prioritized, people's government checks and things like that, and everything else was slow. And so the combination of my yarn coming from Portugal, which takes longer obviously, and then the coming through Canadian customs, and then the slowdown of the mail, I didn't get that yarn until last week. It was close to, it was at least 6 weeks before I think it was about 6 weeks that it took for it to get to me, which is pretty unusual. Our mail is not the fastest in Canada. I know mail's a lot faster in the US, but even then, that length of time was kind of nutty. So I was sort of, and I had got one of those skeins thinking I was going to give it to my mother for Christmas, and then bought her something else in the meantime because I wasn't sure if it was going to come in time. So meanwhile, I think I will give one of those as a prize. It's really lovely sock yarn, so I will do that. And then I have a couple of other things in mind. So that will be a draw. I will draw that at the, if you have any pattern socks that you have knit over the year, anytime between January 1st, 2018 and the end of this month, if you have any that you haven't posted, get them in there. Anything you knit over the year, as long as it's finished before December 31st, is eligible. As I said, I will be drawing from the whole thread, so all your posts are eligible. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that I will give away 2 prizes for the end of the year. I might throw in a project bag. I do still have some project bags that I made myself, so I might throw that in as well. But I did draw as well for the end of October prize drawing, which I, like I said, terribly delinquent on. And that winning post was number 36. That was Nancy, who's Wheel's wife. Congratulations, Nancy. I'm going to gift a pattern of your choice. It can be any pattern. It doesn't have to be socks. It could be any pattern under $10 that's available on Ravelry. If you just want to contact me either through the group here on the Creative Mojo podcast, or you can direct message me on Ravelry or contact me on Instagram, whatever your pleasure. If you want to just get in touch with me and let me know which pattern you're interested in, I will give that to you through Ravelry. So congratulations. I don't think that I will start another knit along right away in January. I haven't really given a lot of thought to whether I want to do that or not, so I don't think I will dive in. I will think a little bit about what we might do. I mean, I've enjoyed the year-long knit along, although, as I've talked about before, my sock knitting mojo was pretty delinquent. I think I've only finished like 3 pairs of socks all year, which is crazy for me. But I do have stuff lined up, some socks patterns lined up for the new year, and I'm sort of enjoying, when I'm doing these, I've been enjoying knitting some socks, and I will definitely be getting back into sock knitting a bit this year. But I don't know, I posted on Instagram my Make 9, which is an idea of projects I would like to work on for this coming year. Again, it's predominantly sweaters. That seems to still be in what I'm in the mood for. That's a lot of the knitting I did this year. I think this was my 6th completed sweater of the year. I think I completed 5 for myself, and early in the new year I had done one for my friend and coworker Denise as well. So either did 4 or maybe 5 for myself, which is great, and I've been wearing them a lot and really enjoying having those sweaters. So I have a number of other sweaters planned, a couple that I didn't get to this year, and a couple of new ones. You can take a look at that post on Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to. There's also at least 1 shawl, 1 pair of socks, 1 or 2 pairs of gloves. I think there's a fingerless mitts and a colorwork mitts. I should have brought to show you, and I didn't. It's packed away somewhere in my knitting room. I worked on some. I was working on some colorwork mitts. Sort of my first intensive dive into colorwork in a way that I've been really happy with. And I almost finished 1 mitt. Again, those got set aside while I finished my Christmas presents and stuff. But I'll have to take those up again. So I was really enjoying that, and I really want to do some more of that. I really want to get better at color work, and I know that I just need to keep working on some projects. And mitts and stuff seem great because they're small. There's good satisfaction, and they finish up fairly quickly. So I don't know. Maybe that's an idea. Maybe let me know if you guys have any ideas. If you're interested in something that you think might be a fun knit along sometime in the probably late winter, early spring would be when I would be in a position to start something like that. February, March, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, if that, and maybe it's colorwork, maybe it's like colorwork mitts or any colorwork smaller project, hats, mitts, socks, whatever. I don't know if that's something of interest to you. So if you have thoughts on something that you think might be a fun sort of couple month long Cal that you're, projects that you're interested in, let me know. Post a comment either here on YouTube or in the on the episode thread on Ravelry in the Creative Mojo group. And I think that's everything. Yeah, really, this is not a very long episode, but I think that is everything that I do have to talk about at the moment. I think in my next episode, I will probably do a little recap, a bit more of an in-depth recap of some of the things that I knit in 2018 and what were my favorite projects and stuff, because there's some good ones to talk about there, and a little review of some of that would be excellent. And yeah, so I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to wish you all the happiest of holidays, Christmas, or whatever else you might celebrate this time of year. I hope that you have a wonderful time and get to spend some time with friends, family, loved one, or if you prefer, some nice quiet downtime. I like a good balance of both. I enjoy spending time with my family, but I'm really looking forward to a little bit of just quiet home time with my husband. We tend to have a pretty quiet Christmas Eve, just the two of us. We open our gifts to each other, watch a movie, have some good snacks and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, that's everything that I'm going to say. So as I said, happy holidays to all of you. Thank you so much for being supporters of the podcast. I really appreciate it, and I really value coming on here and talking about my knitting with all of you. And we'll see you all in the new year. Bye.